radio players, which is a SIG of the Sun City Community Theater. We all have an interest in the great radio shows from the 1930s, 40s, and 50s, and we love to perform. And the great part about it is without the stress of memorizing because we use a script. Today, we are going to present a little screwball comedy called Let Me Tell You About My Operation. It was first aired on July 10th in 1942 by the Columbia Workshop, which then became CBS. So I invite you to sit back, listen, and enjoy the escapade of our patient, George.
Good afternoon. This presentation you're about to see here at Asst was done in 1942 for the first time by the Columbia Workshop, and the name of it is Let Me Tell You About My Operation. It was written by Morrow. Good and enjoy.
That's how it started. I was back in the stockroom tallying a new shipment of toys when things started coming off the shelves. I mean, a 10-pound ledger cracked down across my forearm, and I looked around for a nice place to faint. When I came around, the boss was bathing my forehead with dabs from a bottle of our 19-cent eau de tout de monde. About a half a dozen of the girls were crowded in the doorway in the stockroom, bugging their eyes out at me. I was lying on the floor. My arm felt, well, it felt exactly as if it had been hit by a 10-pound ledger with the accumulated venom of a 12-foot momentum. They started to prop me up on my feet, the boss and one of the stock boys, when Priscilla busted through the girls at the doorway and...
George! Oh, George! Never move an injured person until the ambulance or an accredited physician arrives. Lay him down immediately.
Well, I guess they meant to put me down gently, but Priscilla is a very forceful girl, and she sort of batted me out of their arms, and I fell with a clatter and passed out again. When I came out of it this time, Priscilla had taken over. But she looked so wonderful. I watched her for a minute, enjoying her, before I let on I was awake. Priscilla was classy. The real thing, authentic, absolutely. That's what made me fall in love with her the first time I saw her, behind the hardware counter, selling brads to a carpenter's helper. She sold them one by one, handled each individual nail as if it was a work of art. It isn't the most effective way known to move merchandise, but you don't think of things like that with Priscilla. Even when she was trying to be a five and dime salesgirl, she managed to be something else, too. Poetry, a kind of fresh spirit. So, I was smiling when I opened my eyes. Priscilla put a little of that cologne in them and said,
George, are you hurt badly? Are you in pain?
I'm all right, Priscilla.
Oh, you must be brave. I admire you for that, but I know you must be suffering. Where are you hurt? You must tell me.
My arm, but it's...
It is broken. It must be broken. That's the least that could be the matter with it.
Oh, no, Priscilla, nothing like that. It's just a bump.
His arm is broken, Mr. K. We have to get him to a hospital.
It's just a little numb.
He's being stoical, Mr. K. Don't listen to him. Please call an ambulance and get him to a hospital.
Is it really bad, George?
I don't think it's broken.
Maybe you ought to see a doctor.
It's broken.
Think you can get up, George?
Sure, I'm okay. Just let me get this.
Taxi! Hey, taxi! Get in, George. Here, lean on me.
I'm not crippled. I can get in by myself.
Be sure to phone us the minute you're through with the doctor.
I'll call Dr. Newman the minute you're gone and let him know you're on the way. And don't worry, kid. It's all covered by workman's compensation.
Mr. K, how can you be so crass? Do you think George is even the slightest bit concerned about money when his very existence is endangered? I'm going along with him.
Listen, you still work for me. You get back into that store and start selling hardware, or I'll forget that George is the best assistant I ever had, and I'll fire you, even if it means I've got to lose him too.
You listen to me, Mr. K. I may be your employee.
Go ahead, driver. Now, Miss Logic, you have exactly 30 seconds to get inside that store and start.
You don't want me to take my coat off?
Oh, no. I'll take care of that. Now, where did I put those shears? Oh, here we are. Now, let's take a look at that.
What's the shears for, Doc?
The cold sleeve.
Oh, no, I can take it off, Doc.
No, we'll just run the shears up the sleeve.
I can take it off. I put it on without any trouble before.
Oh, steady, old man. Now, the shirt sleeve.
Oh,
I see.
oh, what is it, Doc?
Well, I don't know yet. Is this hurt?
Yes.
Oh, it might be a fracture. Does that hurt?
Oh, yes.
It might be a dislocation. Does this hurt?
Yes.
Well, it could be a tendon or a sprain. Maybe it's an x-ray. I can't tell authoritatively what's wrong exactly, so I'll tell you what to do. Take this card and go down to the General Relief Hospital over on 2nd Avenue. I'm sending you to see Dr. Vascom. No point in taking any chances on this kind of injury, and he's the biggest guy in town for these things. He'll fix you up. Here, now slip back into the jacket, and I'll pin that sleeve for you, okay? Yeah, there you go. All right, don't worry about it, son. You'll get my bill next week.
It was a nice day, and the arm had stopped hurting badly, so I thought I'd walk over to the hospital. But first, I called the boss and told him I was going over to the hospital, and I'll probably be an hour or two longer.
Take 2.5. Get all fixed up so you can be back on the job soon. You know, I was counting on starting inventory.
Oh, don't worry. I'll be back in the store long before closing.
Fine. Listen, George, do you want to do me a favor and yourself one at the same time? Talk to your girlfriend and calm her down a bit. I got my hands full with her.
Well, you just don't quite understand her, boss. She's a very high-spirited girl. She's not like the other girls.
You're absolutely right. Listen, all I know is that she's a small revolution and...
Put her on, boss. I'll reason with her.
You better, or she won't be working here when you get back. I've got enough trouble here without trying to run a finishing school.
Oh, now, boss.
Hello, darling. Where are you? Are you all right?
Sure, I'm okay. As soon as I get an x-ray taken, I'll be back to the store.
You'll do no such thing. You had a terrible shock, and you must rest. Remain quiet and build back some strength.
That's not necessary, dear. It is just a scratch or a bump. Priscilla, can't you make an effort to act nice and be polite toward Mr. K? I know he doesn't realize how sensitive you are and all, but yes.
Indeed. been deluding myself that at least you realize what an ordinary bore Mr. K is.
Oh, Priscilla, please don't let him hear you talking like this.
But I see that I've been mistaken. You are absolutely without a soul. Goodbye, Mr. Franklin.
Oh. By the time I got to the hospital, I was feeling terrible. I went up the steps into the reception room, handed Dr. Newman's card to the girl at the desk. She told me to wait. I sat down on a covered bench. I thought over Priscilla's words and decided that she had talked like that to me only because she was concerned about me. People do things like that. Well, it wouldn't be so hard to patch up. I'd make a humble apology. And I knew she wouldn't. And maybe buy a pair of tickets to the ballet. Priscilla had been after me for a long time to go to the ballet. Well, I would even do that for atonement and watch the leaping gazelles and take my punishment like a little man. That was a small thing for a wonderful girl like Priscilla. I began to feel a lot better. My arm was only a little bit sore and my heart was warm again. So I began to notice things around me.
Mr. Franklin! Mr. Franklin? Mr. George Franklin!
Yes, here I am. I'm George Franklin.
I'm Nurse Sullivan.
Glad to meet you.
You've come for treatment by Dr. Vascom? Please follow me. You are to submit to the routine questions. Name, address, occupation.
George Franklin, 684 West 78th Street. Assistant manager, case 510 25 50 $1 and up for.
Have you ever been operated upon, Mr. Franklin?
Never.
Never.
Nope. Honestly, I've never had an operation.
Very well. Family?
Just my mother. She lives in Columbus, Ohio, 52 Palm Street.
Mm-hmm. And, who do you wish to be notified in the event of a grave illness or death?
I don't intend to die or be gravely ill. I just came here to get an x-ray. People don't die from x-rays. They don't even get hurt. It's nothing at all. It's just like any other kind of ray.
Whom do you wish to be notified in the event of a grave illness or...
Oh, I see. You've got to have it for the records anyway. Formality, isn't it? But everybody has to. Miss Priscilla Clark. She lives at the YWCA in Lexington Avenue.
And what relation is this person?
She's my fiancée.
Okay, that is all. Will you come with me, please?
That Sullivan was a hard-eyed person. You did what she said. So we went to an elevator, took it up to the 4th floor. At the end of a long corridor, full of that antiseptic smell, she pushed open a white swinging door. Ward K was lettered on it. There were 10 beds in the room. 5 of them were filled with people who looked as if they didn't care anymore what happened to them.
Mr. Franklin, that bed over in the corner is yours.
What? No, it won't, ma'am.
Mr. Franklin, you are a very sick man. You are in our care now. Will you please do as you are told? We do not tolerate disobedience from our patients.
I didn't come here to lie in bed.
Will you please get in that bed?
I stood there shaking my head. Then I guess I got scared of that look on her face, and I raised my voice. Not shouting, mind you, but my voice was raised a little. The dying occupants of all the other beds sat up and stared at me. Sullivan went to the wall, pressed a button. Then she went to the cabinet and came back with a pair of pajamas and a bathrobe.
I've called for Miss Loring the supervisor.
Oh, that Miss Laurie. I could see what a reputation she had. The minute she came in, the patients in the other beds laid down and played dead. This Miss Laurie, she reminded me of one of those composite photographs you see in the papers. You know, one woman's nose, another one's mouth, another one's hair. But Miss Laurie was a combination of the three witches who put the hex on Macbeth, the old maid who looks hopefully under her bed in the magazine cartoons, and Adolf Hitler. Sullivan told her briefly what heel I was being, and then she came toward me.
Mr. Franklin, according to the rules of the hospital, you must take to bed while waiting for Dr. Vascom.
But I don't.
Mr. Franklin! No nonsense now! We stand for no tricks, young man. Get into these pajamas immediately.
What could I do? Sullivan wheeled a screen in front of the bed, gave me a shove behind it. The window was open, but it was 4 stories down, and it wasn't me who was crazy. So I got undressed, put on the pajamas, got into bed. Sullivan wheeled the screen away, and Miss Laurie gave me that final dirty look and left the ward. Then Sullivan came at me with a thermometer in her hand.
Please say, ah.
I don't want any thermometer. Funny thing is, my arm had stopped hurting, and I felt fine. The bed wasn't so comfortable, but the sunshine coming through the window was nice. So I looked at my wristwatch, and I saw it was close to 3 o'clock. From the way it looked, the chances were that even if Dr. Vascom did show up in a few minutes, I wouldn't be released in time to get back to the store before closing. So I decided not to call Priscilla again, because I didn't want to worry her, didn't want her to worry about me too much. So I relaxed until the swinging doors opened and the doctor came in. I waved to him, and he came over. Say, are you Dr. Vascom?
No, I'm just an intern. Senior on this service, though. The big shot won't be around for a couple of hours. Say, what's the matter with you, buddy?
Arm.
Oh, arm? Let's see it. Ow!
Hey.
Hurts a bit, does it? I see. Well, what that arm needs is a bandage. That'll fix it up fine.
He dug up a roll of gauze bandage and began to wind it around my arm. When he had gotten about 5 yards of it on, he went to look for a scissor to cut the end of the gauze. I never saw him again in my life. While I was waiting for him to come back, Sullivan came in again and shoved that thermometer down my throat. She saw the ends of the bandage and she unwrapped it.
If you let another strange intern touch you, I promise you I will tell Miss Laurie.
Won't you please tell me when Dr. Vascom is going to be here? I want to get out of here sometime today.
Oh, today indeed. You'll be a very lucky man if you're discharged within a month.
Don't ask me what I thought. I tried not to think. I sat up in bed when I got my strength back, and then occupied myself by trying to guess at the ailments of the occupants of the other beds, trying to figure out their life expectancy in seconds. The man in the bed next to mine lay still, never moving, only seldom breathing. His complexion was yellow, and he kept his face screwed up in a permanent grimace of terror. As a matter of fact, that kind of look was like a uniform with everybody in the ward. So I began to wonder if I looked like that too. But before I could feel too bad about it, Priscilla banged into the ward and made for me. She went down on her knees at the bedside.
Oh, George, darling, I'm so sorry. Will you ever forgive me?
Sure, honey, I forgive you.
Oh, but I was so rude, so unfeeling. I wouldn't blame you if you never speak to me again. You do forgive forgive me, George?
Well, of course I do, honey. There's nothing to forgive.
I was so mean.
It was all my fault. I shouldn't have spoken to you the way I did.
Darling, you mustn't talk much. You have to conserve your strength. You are very, very sick.
But I'm not, Priscilla. No kidding. I feel swell. I can get up right now, go back to the store, put in a good night's work with overtime.
You're so courageous, darling, but you mustn't try to deceive me. I know everything. A nurse told me.
Oh, she did she? The hatchet-faced one? Don't worry about her. She's a little screwy. Tell me about it. What did she say? When am I supposed to pass to the great beyond?
Oh, darling, you mustn't. Don't even joke about it. Don't even mention it.
Mention what?
Don't think of it. You have to make up your mind that you're going to live. You must fight. You must come through. If you have the will, you will be better in no time. A month, 2 months.
Priscilla, for you, Bob, I'll fight to the last breath. I won't give up. For you, darling.
Yes, for me, George, for me.
No, I can't. I have nothing to live for.
But you have me, George. Dear, I love you, George.
Oh, it's getting dark. Dark. Where are you? Where?
Here I am, George, here. I'm by your side. Speak to me.
It's too late. Too late.
Oh, you mustn't die, George, you mustn't. You can't.
Oh, lady, let him die if he wants to. Let us all die. That's what we're here for. Let us die in peace. Shut up, lady.
Be quiet, you green brute. You must live for me, George. If you die, I will die too.
You really mean that? You're not kidding?
Yes, darling, I do love you. I've been harsh with you and treated you meanly, but now I never will as long as I live. As long as you live.
I die now.
Darling!
Priscilla, will you marry me?
Of course I will. It's what I want. As soon as you get well.
Too late. It must be now. Today. That would give me new strength. Oh, I could die happy if the necessity arises.
But George!
It's getting dark again, Priscilla. Dark.
Don't, George, please. I'll marry you. I'll...
Hooray! She said she'd marry me. I'm getting up.
But George, you mustn't. Don't, George. Lie down. Nurse, help me.
What's going on in here?
Help me, nurse. He's trying to get up.
Oh,
In the house, Sullivan.
You bad boy.
Mr. Franklin, if you give us any more trouble, I shall have to be forced to have you put in a straitjacket. If you insist on this behavior, the hospital can take no responsibility for your condition or your eventual recovery.
Hey, Sullivan, run out and get a marriage license and a minister. I'm going to get married before I die.
Oh, that's what you think. See that you behave yourself.
Priscilla, get the minister. You can't tell how much longer I've got.
It's too late for either a minister or a license. We'll get married tomorrow after work.
Tomorrow, after work, I may be dead by then. Mr. K will give you the day off if you explain. Just tell him you're going to get married me before I die.
No, George, I see things differently now. About the store and all that. Tomorrow's Saturday. We'll be busy, and I mustn't let Mr. K down. I have to show him that the esprit de corps of hardware is hardly less than that, anything than that. Ladies under things. I should be the model sales lady for you, as you always wanted me to be. It will be my wedding present to you. my darling.
And I guess I fell asleep. And when I woke up, it was quiet and dark. A nurse was bending over a little table at the side of my bed. And the light went on. And for a minute, I thought she was Priscilla. She had nice hair. And she wore that starched white uniform like a movie queen.
I'm Rogers, the night nurse. Is there anything I can do for you?
Priscilla. Get me Priscilla.
Priscilla?
The ward doors opened, and a man dressed in a business suit came in. He was a big, stocky man with an important swing to his shoulders. He looked around like a patroon searching for a bell cord, and Rogers hurried over to him. He said something to her, and she went out. He bent over one of the other beds, and when he stood up, I leaned forward and, excuse me, are you Dr. Vascom?
Dr. Vascom?
No, Dr. Vascom?
What is it?
Dr. Vascom, I think it's a shame. Dr. Newman sent me, and I've been here since early afternoon.
What is your name?
Franklin. Dr. Newman sent me because...
Franklin. How do you do, Mr. Franklin? Glad to see you, my boy.
Oh, well.
Good night.
After he shook my hand, the bum one, he went out. A little bit later, Rogers, the night nurse, came back. She sat down in a small chair near my bed, took a blank form out of a drawer in the table.
I've got to ask you a few questions, Mr. Franklin. First, have you ever been operated on before?
Oh. And they woke me up at 6 in the morning. Sullivan was back again and started the day off right by sticking the thermometer in my mouth. When Dr. Vascom going to be here?
In good time.
Go and get anything to eat besides flights.
To eat? We don't give patients anything to eat before an operation. We cleanse the body. I'll take that thermometer now, please.
There's the last straw. What I'd been suspicious of all along was now a cold fact. I was in some kind of a crazy house. I broke into a sweat and my whole life passed in review before me. When I could think again, I looked around. Sullivan was ministering to one of the cadavers in another bed who managed somehow to live through the night. And when I called her, she looked around. Sullivan, I want to get out of this joint. Get me my clothes. She just sneered and turned her back on me. But I had to get out. The only avenue of escape was the ward doors. So I slipped out of bed and straight for the door.
Ah, Mr. Franklin. Put him back in bed, boys.
That's my luck all the time. I ran smack into the arms of Miss Morrow, who was flanked by a couple of orderlies, who looked like orangutans. Well, the orangutans picked me up, carried me back to bed, and they threw me into it.
Just try to move, Lawless, and I'll bust you right in the nose.
I made my peace with God. In about 10 minutes, the orangutans came back wheeling a stretcher. They threw me on it and began to wheel me out. Before we passed through the door, I heard Sullivan at the wall phone.
Hello, operating room. Are you prepared for the appendectomy? We're bringing them right up.
Then they stuck a needle into me, and after that, I didn't care much about anything. The orangutans wheeled me out into the corridor. Then they took me up in the elevator. In the anesthesia room, just next to the operating room, I thought I could catch a glimpse of Dr. Vascom. He was dressed in white, and he was honing a big jackknife on the heel of his shoe. Then they placed the ether coming over my face and I began. Well, I woke up back in bed in the ward. I felt a little bit queasy from the ether, but otherwise I felt in one piece. No pain, no weakness, kind of rested. Sullivan was standing beside the bed with a bundle in her hand.
Here are your clothes, Mr. Franklin. You're discharged. You may leave any time that you feel well enough.
Leave? How the devil can I leave after just having my appendix removed? Removed? I mean stolen.
Oh, about that. I'm sorry, Mr. Franklin. That was a mistake.
Just a little seatbelt, huh?
Well, fortunately, the mistake was rectified in time. We didn't remove your appendix. We mistook you for another case. I'm sorry.
So that's it. I thought I was in a lunatic. Tell me, did Dr. Vascom fix up my arm? Did he do it after they put me to sleep?
Oh, well, the anesthetizing was part of the mistake. They just took an x-ray of your arm while you were under ether, and as soon as Dr. Vascom has studied the x-ray film, you'll hear from him.
Well, it was only 11 o'clock by the time I reached the store. Business was brisk. I pushed back through the crowd into the hardware counter. Priscilla was an amazing picture of industry. She was working fast and efficiently, treating the customers almost as if they were her equals. I hissed at her to catch her attention. Psst, psst. She didn't hear me, so I moved up to the counter. She had her back turned, and then she turned around and...
What can I do for you, sir? George, what are you doing here?
It was just
I know you mistake. You shouldn't have, darling.
Shh, easy. These people, and I want them to think I'm an escaped lunatic.
But how?
They just charged me. It was all a mistake. They had me mixed up with somebody else.
Oh, I'm so glad, darling. I'm so glad you're not going to die.
No, it's all over now, honey. Listen, have you got the license?
Yes, darling, but...
Well, let's go and use it. And get off from behind that counter. We can go and get married.
Hey, what's going on here? Oh, hello, George. Get back to work, Priscilla. George, what's the idea of coming into work 2.5 hours late?
That's a nice way to talk. I just got out of the hospital.
Oh, yeah, that's right. All better?
Yeah, I'm all right.
Good. We can get to that inventory.
Not right now. First, I'm going to take Priscilla out and marry her before she changes her mind.
You can't do... Are you crazy? There's a store full of customers. It's Saturday, our busy day. You can't take time off for any nonsense. I need you here. You, Priscilla, it's all your fault. You've finally driven him nuts.
Mr. K, you're talking to the woman I'm going to marry.
Oh, excuse me. Say, listen, George. You're not going to let her work after you're married, are you?
Well, of course not. No wife of mine is going to work.
Of course not. Priscilla, George, bless you, my children. Go ahead. Go get married. You don't have to come back till Monday. I mean you, George. Well, good luck and everything.
There's something peculiar about that man, George. Did you notice how quickly he changed his mind? What on earth made him suddenly become so sweet?
Hello, George Franklin? This is Morrow, Victory Insurance Company. We handle your compensation claims.
Oh, what can I do for you, Mr. Morrow?
You can tell me what the reason is for this bill from the General Relief Hospital for $50. $50 for a sore arm? What's the idea?
You'll never know. I'll never know either. So they sent a bill for $50. And that isn't everything. Dr. Vascom still hasn't sent his bill, and that's gonna be a honey.
Well, be thankful you're still alive and married to a lovely girl, a lovely housewife.
You're not kidding, boss.
Anyway, you're through with that bunch at the hospital. There's nothing more they can do to you.
Which one's Mr. Franklin?
Here, that's me.
Package from the General Relief Hospital. Sign here, please.
Okay. That must be those x-ray pictures they took. Here you are, kid.
Gee, thanks.
There they are. Pictures.
Hold them up against the light. That's it. Hey, it looks swell. You've got to admit they did a fine job. Doesn't look like a thing's wrong with that arm.
There's not. Never was. He x-rayed the wrong arm.
Thank you, everyone. I'd just like to take a moment and introduce our players to you. The intern and Dr. Vascom was Rick Klotz. Our orderly and Mr. Morrow, John Sattler. Our patient and messenger, Pam Peters. Night nurse Rogers. Ray Peters. Nurse Loring. Marianne Bennett. Nurse Sullivan is Belle Brodersen. Jim Bennett, Priscella, Vicki Baird, Jim Brunner, and the co-directors of Lawless, Lawless, and Director and Videographer, Stephen Peters. Truly hope that you've never had